guys, to the cross final here at the Nexen Arena. We have found our finalists to go into the final of the cross final. It is going to be the rematch, Solar versus Dark in a ZVZ.
Both GSL finalists have fallen out, and
you know what that means.
it means the SSL is the harder tournament.
Yeah. Obviously.
Anyways, we'll see how this finals goes differently or similarly to the SSL finals, but the second series much closer if you're just joining us than the first. Beyond putting up a good fight and nearly winning that last game. I feel like if he had made a few decisions differently, he probably could have won. But, I mean, he didn't win, and it's over, and Dark has moved to the finals again. And it's crazy just how this happens. I mean, Beyond lost to Classic. Dark barely beat Classic. Who knows what different finals we could have had over here at the SSL had Beyond not lost earlier on in groups. So, as we have it now, we have that Zerg versus Zerg finals. It was one of the best Zerg versus Zerg finals. I think it's the best Zerg versus Zerg Star League finals we've ever had in Korea for StarCraft 2. When I think about it, like Sniper versus Hyun was not that good. Roro versus Symbol, not very good.
Nesty
Losira, the worst of all time. Worse than Nesty versus Inca. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the best ZVZ Star League finals we've ever had, I think, for StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
And it could just be that good again. I mean, we're going to find out. There's so much money on the line. We already know of these two players which one is the better player when it comes to results, because we had Dark defeated by Solar. This is a refresher, but this really is about money. Like I said before, this is not actually a Star League. You take this trophy home, you put it there, it's like, okay, I told everyone I was the best again, they knew it. But this is not a Star League. This is not anything more, really. I wouldn't even call this a title. It's really just a proof
event match.
Yeah, it's proof that you are the best player in Korea at this exact moment in time. And you know, we talked about it would be the best story if we had the GSL finalists versus the SSL winners. Sorry, like say Solar versus Beyond would have been the best finals, because then we really see who is the best. But now we have a rematch, which just kind of updates. You know, this is like Star League 1.01. Okay.
The patch notes.
Yeah, this is the patch. Like, there was a problem where Dark didn't win Game 7. We tried to resolve it. Please submit us your info. Okay. Now, Dark obviously is a champion. He won Season 1 over Stats, Stats was in incredible form at the time.
Oh, yeah.
As mentioned before.
Especially in PvZ.
Yeah, I mean.
And Dark made him look silly.
Yeah.
Like, that was a crazy final.
He changed the meta throughout that finals. In a few matches beforehand, but he defined it when he won a grand final, showing that when we saw Bandits 4, I was like, oh, this is a cool, interesting build. I'm not really sure how it works yet. Nobody really knows. And then when he won a finals using that, we were like, okay, this is how this matchup will be played now. But in Zerg versus Zerg, I feel Dark is very much like his teammate Su. He's very timing attack oriented. He doesn't take third bases all too often. Solar, though, is the one who gets aggressive really early. He's the guy who's going to go for an early pull. He's the guy who's going to pull Lings and all-in you. He's not really the type of player to go late game either. Like, if it goes to this match, I don't expect to ever see a fourth base for either of these players. That's not where their playstyle goes. That's not going to happen. This is not Roro or Symbol or... I'm trying to think of other Zergs that played like this. Sometimes Curious takes a fourth base, but never going to happen in this series, I don't think, based on what we've seen already from these two in ZVZ.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a generally fast one, I think, and I'm not sure if it's going to go to Game 5, actually. I think it might just be a 3-1, but I'm not sure which way. It's a weird feeling for me. The map list is kind of interesting.
I think there's definitely some truth to what you're saying, and I think that Dark, he played a very exhausting match, right? Where Solar had a pretty easy one. He scouted, he defended.
He had an easy one, and then he had a long break.
Yeah,
watching. So
Dark is on fire with momentum, but he may also be exhausted, fatigued from that crazy hard series. Zerg versus Zerg is the micro matchup. Like most of the other matchups, Zerg kind of just decides what they're going to do with their units. They give over, like Micro for Zerg is overarching commands like, I need to make sure my Hydras are in an arc, I need to make sure my Lurkers are in this position, I need to make sure
trying to go for surround or like positioning.
But it's not finesse until you get to ZVZ, where that's where Micro is finesse. Your Roach Micro how quickly you can stutter step roaches can be, you can lose attacks in that ball for your roach. If your whole roach ball misses one attack because you move commanded for one extra length of an attack speed for there, you can lose you the whole fight. You micro your lings, your baneling control. This is the control matchup, micro matchup is ZVZ. Micro and mind games is really what this is all about. And what we saw before was just strategy, basically. I defended what you're throwing at me. I scouted you. I countered you.
Solar. Yeah, Solar strikes me as more the SOS type, where he's going to come in with like weird builds. Like we saw different compositions come out in that Star League finals, whereas Stark was just playing very straight up.
Yeah.
Right. And he can throw in a cheese here and there, but I think Solar's definitely more. I think it would be more common to see Solar come out with stuff like that. And I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's a shorter series now, so we have less opportunity for like games to be taken away from Dark by some weird build that he didn't expect. Right? Yeah. But that series against Beyond, as you said, is just so exhausting. I probably have to give it to Solar 3-1 or 3-2.
I'm thinking 3-1, but I also thought I thought it was going to be like a 4-1 in the previous finals. Dark was the massive favorite. We had an upset win. ZVZ normally never happens like what we saw at the finals because it was back and forth. Dark wins one, Solar wins one, Dark wins one, Solar wins one. And one player had to break the cycle, and that was actually Solar, and he won the finals. But normally it's one player gets ahead. Then the next game, he's stressed. I was like, well, what if he early pulls me again? Should I play safe? And it gets into your brain, like, do I go hatch first, or is that too greedy? What if I don't go hatch first, and then he just hatch first, and you lose control.
So many mind games, and a lot of it comes down to momentum. Going into game by game. Guys, I think there's a problem with Dark's sound right now. So that's what we're trying to get fixed. You saw in the booth, Dark was showing the referee, like, hey, listen to my headphones. Maybe
he's like, did you press Control S? Dark's like, oh my God. That's actually happened before in the GSL multiple times. I literally seen and have been told by producers and stuff, like, oh yeah, he pressed Control S by accident at some point.
You remember, I think it was Hero, that he was having some problem with his hotkey, like he couldn't press it, so they replaced his keyboard, and it was still happening, and then they replaced his computer, and it was still happening, and they were like, check your hotkeys, and he just like hotkeyed it wrong.
Yeah.
And we were like, are you serious? Like we were just here filling time, like, taking breaks, commercial breaks. We were here for like 15 minutes while all this happened, and then eventually he's like, oh, sorry. I just put it on the wrong hotkey, and they were like, "Oh." God.
Even even hearing you say that makes me like. I forgot
makes you reminisce about that fantastic
moment. I did forget that happened.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I was casting that, but I remember this happening.
I think it was me and you. Maybe it was me and GTR. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it was this year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I do remember this. I guess it was Star League, right? Because I kind of remember it was like being casted like right here and on the stage. I'm like thinking back. Anyway.
But for rounds 1 and 2 of Pro League, we were up here as well.
That's true. Anyway. We just filled time again. But now it's time for the grand finals here. Frozen Temple, game number 1, a 2-player map. This is the map where early pools very viable, early timing attacks also viable. I remember what happened on this map in the finals. I'll talk about when we get into the game. It was a good series, and it was a great game on this map.
These guys chatting a lot in the lobby. Actually pretty good friends considering the finals, but it is time now to jump into game number 1 on Frozen Temple. So let's do that. Dark versus Solar for the final of the Cross Finals. Here we are on Frozen Temple to start us off. Down in the bottom right in the red, the Zerg player from Samsung Galaxy Con, it is Solar.
Long dramatic pause for the Korean commentators on that one. His opponent losing the Star League Season 2 finals, but winning the first, he is Dark. For some reason I was thinking GSL entry there. So, early pool versus hatch first. This is the kind of what we've seen on this map a lot now. I'm going to try to remember everything that happened in the finals as well as I can for these maps to build like some sort of mirrored storyline, because this really is the rematch of the finals. On this map, if I remember correctly, we saw Dark go for a very early timing attack, and it did some damage, but not enough. The Roach counterattack came, and
Dark held it off.
Well, he had the Roaches on the top of the ramp, and you were talking about the concave, and he didn't actually maintain it. He allowed Solar to go back up the ramp, and then he just killed him with more Roaches. Like, he had like 5 more Roaches.
He backed off because he wanted those extra reinforcements, and Solar committed. And just the defensive advantage was too much, and then after he won that fight, Dark just pushed across and won the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was one of our earlier sets, like set 1 or 2.
I think, yeah. That was a really good game. This game is going to look a little bit different just from the outset because it's a little bit of Ling pressure. Not a lot. It's going to go the long way around, but the second Overlord, actually, I don't know if that second Overlord will quite catch it. Looks like just barely not. This Ling pressure will probably get a drone at best, but it will force Lings, and actually the Overlord will see it.
Yeah, it goes right through it there.
Very intelligent scout by Dark.
Yeah, just going to pull back those drones. Starts a spine even.
Doesn't need a spine, but he doesn't know what's coming yet. Okay, now he sees this with the Overlord. He can definitely cancel that. And let's see, what does he get with this? Forces a cancel. That means he basically gets 1 larva.
So far, going to have to wait for the Queens.
Ooh, this actually was a close call. I think he should save it. Although, no, he loses the Lings too. Well, the Queen was not attacking. Gets the inject, but he will lose it just barely. That was a close call. I mean, I feel like the Queen was attacking instead of running. He doesn't lose it, but now the Ling also scouts the main. Nothing to see.
That's pretty big.
Lair straight away.
Oh, wow. I wonder where you go from here. Maybe you go for a fast Spire?
I think so. Fast Spire will allow him to pressure a lot, control the Overlords on the map.
Although the Evo Chamber and Roach Warren kind of...
Well, it could be faking, right? I mean,
yeah,
you never...
could also be just part of the wall to hold off any, cross pressure.
Since the change, since the buff to... it's the only thing in the game that's like this. The Spore Crawler does bonus damage to biological units. So, because of this change, we never see Mutalisk as a composition. You see it as an opening, and with this opening, you will eventually have to change or transition into Roaches anyways. So, it's this idea makes it look like he's doing something normal, but then also he will use those tech structures afterwards. Gets Roach speed first though, so I guess
he's just going for before that.
Yeah, he's just going for a more traditional opening. Let's not forget the ZVZ meta has changed actually quite significantly over the last month or so without televised matches. We saw the glimpse of that at the finals where we see fast layers almost every game instead of the kind of more units first, layer second. Those are openings we were seeing before, and then Heart of the Swarm. So I guess this is just really, even though it feels fast as a layer, it's a quick layer, but it's not a hyper fast Muta build necessarily, and in this case obviously not with the Roach speed. Anyways, he's going to take a third with this. Ling deny attempt will be also denied.
Yeah.
Oh, that poor changeling has to get the long way around. Wow.
The scout in a bit sees no lair, or sees yes lair rather, and I'm not sure if he saw that pop. That was really close, actually.
I think he
might
did,
have seen
but
it happen.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think he knows. With how quick he got his too, it's pretty likely he's got a good idea.
I mean, his +1 is about to finish with the Roach speed, so he could hit a nice timing here.
Looks like that's what he wants to do.
But right now it's 10 Roaches to 6 Roaches, so it's not like a huge difference. And by the time he gets across the map, there will be more Roaches that come out. There's even Lings that still survived, and if he groups up all of his Queens, we always talk about this in ZVZ, the defensive advantage is quite large.
Yeah, also let's not forget, he has this ramp he could work with. Looks like he's going to try to buy more time and fight away from the ramp. He also has more larva because he's built larva on this base he's had for longer. Speed gets you a lot of advantages when you have a Roach advantage that's significant, but when you're on the same amount of Roaches, it doesn't do much for you. So the speed allows you to have more Roaches firing. It gets the Roaches at the back in range of attacking faster. That's why it's powerful. But if you are even in Roach count, in your, especially at roach numbers of this small significance, then all of your roaches are basically going to be firing the whole time anyways. The speed isn't going to give you that much of an advantage.
Yeah. And I like what Solar did there. He pokes up, he sees the amount of units that Dark committed to, and he's like, my upgrades are ahead, but I don't need to force this fight. I've made that mistake before on this map, right? So I'm just going to back off. I'm going to have +2 ahead as well, and I can just go for the extra upgrades here. I know I'm already ahead, so I'm not going to force it. I'm going to get further ahead.
Here comes the Overseer. Going to scout this base, see how many drones are there, the gas as well. There's no way for Dark to know that Solar's good for movement speed. I think we saw this one time in the finals and it was canceled. And just never really became significant. Or in one of the games potentially, I can't remember exactly how, but maybe he was trying to get it but he died, so we didn't get to see it, but it was never...
yeah, I think Dark was trying to go for it in one of the games.
Yeah, I think maybe on Galactic Process. I can't really remember exactly, guys, but this is something maybe that we didn't really see back then, but I imagine if the game goes longer, this becomes powerful because of your harassment potential with it. And the question is what comes next? How many Ravagers do they make?
The interesting thing is that I don't think we've seen a single one, but also we have the same upgrades coming out for Dark just later. It gets burrow movements and the burrow.
Yep. And now these roaches coming over here on the left side, trying to find an angle to sneak in.
Look at this Overseer.
Already predicted, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect positioning there.
It must be very common once we get to the stage of the game. I said before the start I never thought we'd see one game that goes fourth base with how these two players play. And already in game one, fourth base is for both players. It's somewhat map dependent, and obviously these two players didn't kill each other and Solar decided to back off, so it makes sense. Gets scouted here, but he is going to attack here with a better concave. Has to back off a little bit, but this is not a good fight for Dark at all. And he needs to really get it together here. He's going to lose this hatchery, but he needed to back off so he isn't losing more roaches he does. These roaches do actually escape because the rest of the roaches were pulled away, the ones that were defending, so they get through. And one Ravager here could actually add some extra DPS. This fight is going crazy well for Solar currently.
Not sure if he can commit here, though. It looks like he can't really run away. So he's just going to try to take as good of a trade as possible.
I think he actually can really commit here, though. I mean, he has the worst numbers, but his positioning was better. So, like, it's only a little bit less he has. He just commits here. He takes the fight. Every time he drops a bile, Dark loses DPS because he has to micro back, so he loses damage during that time. Solar gets into an even better position. This is probably just going to be game over here in game one.
It looks like it. Dark holds on there, but that's only because of the reinforcements. And now he's not even holding on. GG. Solar takes game number one in a very close one there. He goes for the pool first, hides the Ling, snipes a Queen, and gets a very small advantage. But over the course of that game, it's like the perfect example of just when you're ahead, get further ahead. He got his upgrades out faster, the lair was faster, everything was faster there. Even his production was faster because his third base was faster. It all came from the beginning of that game. Just the little amount of damage he was able to do and slowly build that advantage to something bigger.
Yeah. Very, I would say, technical game. Like we saw both players do the same thing. The position was better for Solar. He was one step ahead every step of the way. He had the faster lair, he had the faster roach speed, he had the faster +1. He didn't attack with any of these things until he tried to pressure when he had roach speed, and then he knew it wasn't going to work, so he backed off. He had the faster, attack. He got there first. He got into position while distracting some of Dark's roaches. Then Dark pulled away, and it actually takes a long time to kill burrow movement roaches because they have regen bonus while they're doing that, so they regen really, really fast. So he kept the roaches alive, so he was having to deal with those roaches in his main base and at his natural. He was losing drones, and the game just kind of got out of his hands from there.